I have lived a low life all my life, and therefore, the life inside here, which is the life of the prisoners, is so familiar to myself and to my background.
As I've been here, there's a health center, there's a dispensary, there are patients also among the prisoners, and I was assigned my duties.
Free at last, but defiant as ever. What's the next step for doctors' union officials?
We are hopeful that this time the negotiations are going to be fruitful.
They have themselves to blame. We had no hand in their jailing. Executive finally speaks.
Why the IEBC wants Justice Odunga out of the case on voter register audits.
Ni vizuri kama chakula inaweza kupatikana, hiyo ndio solution ambayo tunaweza sema itatusaidia kwa muda.
And too hungry to learn, drought driving children out of schools in Kajiado.
Good evening from the KTN News Center. KTN Prime begins right now. I'm Ben Kitili.
And I'm Sophia Wanuna. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Meresha Owiti. We begin with 7 officials of the Kenyan Doctors Union walking to freedom this evening after spending 2 nights in jail. The officials were released pending the hearing of an application against their sentencing.
Prison gates opened for the officials in Kamiti, Kajiado, Machakos and Langata late in the evening after lawyers scrambled to deliver released documents from court. And as Rita Tinina now reports, the Doctors Union Secretary General Oma Oluga was not on strike in prison.
After spending 2 nights in jail, 7 officials of the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union were free. At the Langata Women's Prison, KMPDU Treasurer Daisy Korir walked to freedom shortly before 6 p.m. At the Committee Medium Security Prison, KMPDU Secretary General Ouma Oluga was also a free man. They walked to freedom with a renewed resolve.
I think it is impossible to break the mental spirit of Dr. Ouma Oluga. It is absolutely impossible. The focus is still the focus, and the focus is to improve health sector.
We know very well that the solution is not inside here in prison, but we had been alive to the fact that if that time comes and we have to be in prison, then we would go there.
The 2 days in prison may have been a blessing to fellow prisoners.
I came face to face with people who really needed me, and that was my first duty. When I woke up yesterday in the morning, I did my first ward round. Indeed, if I ever stayed here, I think the prisoners would have been happier because at least they would have had a doctor seeing them every single day.
As I've been here, there's a health center, there's a dispensary, there are patients also among the prisoners, and I was assigned my duties, which are in a health card, which shows that I was supposed to be working in a dispensary, as allocated by the senior officers of this place.
Of the other 5 officials, Evelyn Shege was released from the Machakos GK prison, Samuel Oroko from the Kajiado prison, and Alan Ochanji from Athi River. The officials were released following a directive by the Court of Appeal after an application against their jailing.
We give you time that whatever you agree on, give us a consent of all that you agree on, whether it is part of their prayers in the application or not. And then we are going to endorse that, and we'll be done.
A team of lawyers representing the doctors made 4 applications before a 3-judge bench led by Lady Justice Wanjiro Karanja, and they were granted all their pleas.
Civil Appeal Appellants number 1 to 8 in Civil Appeal number 9 of 2017 shall be released forthwith from prison pending the hearing of the appeal.
The Law Society of Kenya and the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights will lead the mediation team. After the court's orders, those who had gathered outside the court in solidarity with the doctors marched to Uhuru Park, and they had another ultimatum.
hold our promise. We said 48 hours. And 48 hours we shall be out. But should there be no goodwill, we are willing to issue a notice to escalate that period.
CORD Principal Raila Odinga led several leaders who joined the doctors at Uhuru Park.
A health sector service commission, like we have a teacher service commission, public service commission, police service commission. We must have a health service commission in our country. I have now filed an amendment bill to amend the Constitution of Kenya so that we create the Health Service Commission.
All parties in the case against the jailing of the union officials will appear again in court on the 23rd of this month. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
Big day for the doctors. They are still at Uhuru Park. On the big question discussion tonight, we're asking you, do you think the 2 nights in jail will make KMPDU officials drop their hardline stance? Tell us what you think by texting your yes or no opinion, plus a brief comment to our studio line 22155. You can also tweet us at Ben_Kitili, at Sophia Wanuna, at KTN News, and at KTN Kenya. The hashtag is KTN Prime. We shall be sampling some of your texts and tweets during this live newscast. So a lot from the doctors, but what is the government saying, Sophia?
All right, the government tonight, through the spokesperson, Eric Kirai, they're sending out a statement saying they welcome the release of the union officials. And of course, one of the things we saw from that statement is that the government is confident of a resolution in as far as the negotiations now as they go back to the table, that by 23rd of February, that is later on this month, actually next week, in 8 days, they're hoping that the strike will be called off. Of course, these talks will now be mediated by the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights alongside the Law Society of Kenya. And of course, the government as well talking about that Kenyans in this period of time, over 70 days, their lives have been used as bargaining chips. And this was saying that they are cognizant of the suffering and death of Kenyans, and that this has been used as a means to apply pressure on the negotiating table. So the government saying that was wrong, that was cruel, it should not have happened, and saying that the doctors, as they go back to the discussions, should be sensitive to the plight of Kenyans. Also, the executive not to blame for imprisonment of the officials. The government categorically saying that the reason they were behind bars for those 2 nights is as a result of a lawsuit that was filed by the Council of Governors. And this is owing to a matter in as far as the contempt of court is concerned. So trying to distance themselves. So it was not because of any of the parties involved. It was as a result of a judicial process that had been initiated by the Council of Governors. And finally, one of the things also they're saying is they're urging the KMPDU to guard against exploitation by politicians. The government in that statement through the spokesperson saying that the opposition has been heavily involved in these particular talks, but not with a view to find a solution. They're accusing opposition of playing divisive politics, and saying that instead of looking at this as a labor dispute, they sought to bring in politics and let it be a football match of sorts in as far as gaining political mileage. So saying that the doctors, as they fight for their deals, for which they are open to and say it's a good fight, they should guard against that kind of exploitation. So that's what the government is saying tonight, Ben.
Thank you, Sophia. Now, in the aftermath of the Kenya Medical Association's announcement that private medical facilities would cease offering services in solidarity with the KMPDU officials, Kenyans woke up to notices announcing cessation of services in some hospitals such as AAR Healthcare. Others like Gertrude's Hospital scaled down their operations just before the Court of Appeal ordered the release of the 7 officials.
Our doctors, as staff of Gertrude's, had a discussion, and the agreement was that we are in solidarity with the plight of the doctors who are jailed, but we also have a responsibility to children, especially in emergency services. So we did work out a formula for how to continue providing emergency services at our facilities. Because when faced between attending to an emergency and non-emergency, we have to attend to the emergency first.
Right, let's now take you live to Uhuru Park in the CBD, where the doctors are still talking. Let's now listen into what is happening there as some of the officials address their fellow doctors. Let's listen in.
Oh, where is that? So, I say thank you and let the work begin. Now, we are going back to page 1. Semeni page 1. Page 1. Even at the title, sitaki hata kuona Ministry of Health sijui nani. I just want to see KMPDU CBA. The end. That's all I want to see there. And at the end of it, I want to see signatures. A signature saying, our Honorable Dr. Ouma Oluga, Semeni Ouma Oluga, witnessed by Chairman Samuel Oroko. Sema Oroko. Those are the guys.
Igueres, 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 Igueres. I hope umesikia those are the guys. Those are the guys ni kina Mailo, Muraguri. Those are the guys. Atuoli. Aya. The next person I'm bringing on board, just for a minute, when guys were facing jail, aliwaambia jela ni kama boarding, si ndio? Mwaniki, can you ask them kama hiyo mawaidha ilikuwa ya ukweli ama uliwadanganya?
Doctors power! Doctors power! Me have already spoken, I'm not speaking much. Mimi niliwaambia 2015 niliekwa ndani na nikakaa hapo siku mzima. The following day wakanieka pingu, wakanipeleka kotini.
CBS 7, some of them, they are addressing their fellow doctors. Of course, they were freed today. The mandate shifting to talks again to just find out if a solution will be in sight.
Indeed. Let's go to another court standoff now, and the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, has asked High Court Judge George Odunga to disqualify himself from hearing a court case pitting the opposition coalition CORD against the IEBC.
Justice Odunga will rule on whether to disqualify himself tomorrow. KTN News reporter Moremi Mwangi now reports.
On Monday, High Court Judge George Odunga quashed the award of the 2017 ballot paper printing tender, sending Kenya's electoral body IEBC back to square one.
8 of 2016.
And now, IEBC wants Odunga to disqualify himself from hearing a second IEBC-related case that is before him, citing the likelihood of bias.
Let's another judge or brother in your lordship's division to have a look at this matter.
We have walked out of this court with decisions which have gone against us. In fact, more often we walk out of this court with decisions against us.
In the present case, the opposition coalition CORD has challenged IEBC's award of the tender for the audit of the voters' register to KPMG audit firm. CORD argues that KPMG does not meet the professional threshold of a reputable audit firm as stipulated in the Kenyan electoral laws, claiming that the award of the tender was shrouded in secrecy and that IEBC sidelined key stakeholders, including political parties and parliament.
Consideration, my lord, is that
Odunga recently came under direct attack from National Assembly Majority Leader Aden Duale a matter which is reportedly subject to a fierce backroom discussion between senior government officials and the judiciary.
You want Judge Odunga, and I have said it many times, you cannot be a member of the bench and play tribal politics.
Anytime you intimidate a judicial officer, that is contemptuous of the court process. Unfortunately, no one has brought out a case for contempt of court this far.
Odunga will rule on Tuesday whether he will disqualify himself from the case. But Chief Justice David Maraga wants IEBC and other parties dissatisfied with Odunga's Monday ruling on ballot paper tender to seek proper redress by filing an appeal in court.
At times, the judgments will not please some people. At times, others are pleased. So where there is any grievances raised, we will deal with it in appeal in the normal way.
The series of IEBC-related court cases have angered the ruling Jubilee regime, which is accusing court of scheming to scuttle IEBC preparations for the August 8th polls. With multiple IEBC-related cases still pending before the courts, the judiciary will be an institution to watch as the IEBC continues grappling with the tight timelines to the 2017 polls. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News in Nairobi.
All right, so today the KMPDU officials are going home, but on our Big Q, we're asking you, do you think those 2 nights in jail will cause them to drop their hardline stance?
Keep texting and tweeting.